Let me share a little bit about myself. I am a serial entrepreneur. Nivi is it's the third startup that I've co-founded and my fifth startup overall in my career. But I come from an engineering background. So I graduated from MIT in 1999. So now you know how old I am, with a bachelor's in computer science. And I also have a master's in computer science from MIT. So, I took a sort of the path that everybody talks about, the engineer in the garage building stuff and starting a company. That's the path that I've taken. I've always been excited about the role technology has to play in various markets. Spent the first half of my career actually in enterprise markets here in the US. So I'm located in Boston, just outside of Boston. And so spent the first half of my career focusing on enterprise markets and also building software for mobile devices in those markets. So my engineering specialty and my technical specialties are in how do you use these phones to enable people to do work more effectively. And so I was programming on the very first Palm Pilots, if you ever have seen those antique devices. They're relics now. RIM Blackberries, the very first RIM Blackberries, I used to write software for those. And then in 2008, I shifted my focus to emerging markets and really saw an opportunity to really have an impact with the work that I was doing. And especially, again, with this phone and saying, well, not the iPhone, but a phone, and seeing how phones and people accessing phones were really, sort of disrupting the way people lived their lives. With a phone, you could access information more readily. You could connect to providers, you could connect to suppliers, so there was a lot of opportunities out there. So in 2008, I actually started my second company called Assured Labor, and it was a job marketplace focused on connecting low-wage labor to employment in Latin America. So launched that in Nicaragua originally, and scaled that into Mexico, and then eventually scaled into Brazil. I had left the company by then, but yeah, we sold the company in 2013 to a job board in Mexico called OCC Mundial. So that was my first foray into emerging markets, and using, again, the mobile phone as a means of making employment more readily accessible for people. I kind of shifted back into the US market for a little bit, realizing I needed to get more skills around data and big data. And I was actually CTO of TinyURL for 6 years, from 2011 through 2017. So you all know TinyURL, the link shortener, again, focused on building large scale solutions for data and how do you process data. And then in 2014, I made my way to Kenya. And it's through that journey that I started Nivi. I was actually an entrepreneur in residence for an early stage VC fund in Kenya in 2014 and 2015, and became really interested in using using the mobile phone to disrupt health. I saw that health was one of the few verticals or industries in which there wasn't a lot of innovation going on. There was a lot of innovation within the walls of a clinic, but especially, as you both must know, spent a lot of time in Africa and India in general, people's access to health systems is pretty poor. And there's a big disconnect in between people and the health systems that serve them. And I wanted to look for ways in which to use this phone to sort of really bridge that gap that exists between people and the health systems that serve them. And so that was the foundational core of Nivi. It started in the idea was hatched, actually, before I came on, it was hatched by my co-founders, who are public health researchers. And so it was hatched in 2014. I met my co-founders in 2015 in Kenya, in Nairobi. And really the idea, it initially was to focus on contraceptive access and counseling women on the best methods of contraception using a mobile phone, using an automated counseling agent available over the phone. And so that was the genesis of Nivi. launched in Kenya in 26 with funding from a non-commercial arm within Merck, a pharmaceutical company called Merck for Mothers. Tuli and Luntu, you might know Merck maybe under the name MSD. MSD is called, that's the name for Merck in all other markets outside of US and Canada. And so they funded this. Their mission, Merck for Mothers, their mission is to end maternal mortality worldwide. So it was a 10-year, $500 million initiative that they funded. They fund a lot of different programs and do a lot of advocacy work, and they have a digital portfolio, and that's where Nivi sits within that digital portfolio. Since then, we've realized that Nivi is, it's more than just this counseling agent that can counsel women on contraceptive methods. It's also really sort of that bridge to your health and to health services. And so now it's evolved into this AI-powered chat platform that enables you to have conversations over WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger, in which you can find out information on different health topics and then use that information to get connected to the right health services and products that are appropriate for you based off of, recommended counseling. And so we launched in Kenya in 2016 with initial funding from Merck, and then from Merck for Mothers, and then we scaled it to India in 2019. So since then, we just actually crossed the 2 million user mark, 380 some odd thousand users in Kenya and over 1.7 million users in India. And as one of our investors was joking one day, he's like, oh, great, 1.7, or I think at the time it was 1 million. He's like, only 99.99% of the population to go in India. So, we're proud of 1.7, but we got a long way to go. And this year with the pandemic and with COVID-19, we've actually, we've been expanding out our mandate, beyond just contraceptive access to reproductive health and maternal care in general. But also what we've done is expanded our content to address COVID. A lot of people have a lot of questions on COVID and, what does it mean for them? And also, how do they access health services, these essential health services, what are characterized as essential health services? Reproductive care, maternal care, and child care are all essential health services under many of these government mandates. So how do they access those same services in this new world that we all live in? And so we recently sort of not pivoted, but expanded our content to address COVID itself. How do you look for COVID, and how do you manage risk associated with COVID? How do you prevent yourself from getting the disease? And if you do get the disease, what can you do? And so we have a lot of content there, but then also essential health services during the age of COVID. And so with that focus on COVID, we've also expanded the platform. Tuli and Luntu, you'll be interested to hear. We've also expanded the platform into South Africa. So the platform is available on Facebook Messenger, and we have a COVID-specific South Africa page in which you can have conversations around COVID-19 and understand, get all the facts and information that you need, and, have an interactive conversation where you can learn what you need to learn to protect yourself from COVID. So that's my journey to date. I'm the CEO of the company, so I've evolved in my roles from software engineer to senior software engineer to CTO to, investor to CEO. And so I always say Nivi is really the sum total of all my experiences to date. And, it's really picking up on a lot of different threads that I learned over the course of my career, 20 plus years, which spans 20 plus years now.